ladies. Happy Monday. Happy day one of our challenge. I am just so happy to be here with all of you. I'm just going to double check, make sure it looks like I am live on the page. And then we're going to jump in and get started. So for today, we did our challenge email and post this morning. And what I'm going to do is just a quick overview of the kind of lesson and post for today. I'm going to try to keep it really short. I'm going to try not to be long-winded or be on here for too long. So I'm just double checking that it looks like we are live. Yep. And we are going. Hi, Jen. Hi, Kim. Yes, I am upright, Kim. I know. Much easier on my computer than when I'm on my cell phone. So what I'm going to do is jump in and get started for today, go through our training, and then I will jump back in and answer any questions at the end of the training. That way I can kind of just get going. I'm hoping to only keep you ladies here for a short period of time since you already read through the lesson for today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and get started. All right. So first of all, I want to say welcome to our LadyJeepers.com Be Our Valentine 3-day challenge. I'm so excited that you are here with me for this challenge. So today is day one, and this is about love your Jeep. So I want to say welcome. And for day one, we are going through the breakdown of axle, gear, and tire size. The reason I picked this is probably the most frequently asked question when we are talking about builds or questions that I see come up in the group. And so I felt like this was a great kickoff for Love Your Jeep day one of the challenge. So I know some of you ladies might be asking, why are we not just jumping into lift and tires? Well, because tire size is the most important part to deciding on your build. It really is going to dictate what other parts and modifications you're going to have to make. And then what stock pieces and parts you're going to need to upgrade based on the tire size and the stress that you're putting on those stock pieces. Because like we talked about this morning, our Jeeps come out of the factory off the showroom floor, very capable to go out, to take them on trails, have a great time with them. But they're also coming straight out with stock parts that are meant to be able to stand up and perform with the stock tires that are on them. So anytime we start talking about changing tire size, we are then changing the amount of stress and force that we are putting on stock parts that were not really meant to have to be able to hold up to the stress that we are putting on them. So we are starting at the bottom and working our way up per se. When deciding on your build, your tire size will determine a lot. And actually, your tire size is going to really determine everything. So knowing and understanding where your Jeep is right now, so you know what axles you're running, what current gears you have, understanding kind of your specs of where you are right now at this moment, what your Jeep currently has, and then what you will have to change based on what your current specs are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a couple additional downloads for today, day one, when we finish at the end of this video. And the first one I'm going to share with you is my current Jeep specs. So this is going to be the very first worksheet in your Design Your Jeep build. So I'm going to be giving you this My Current Specs worksheet. And this is like the very first part that you're going to go through. And you're going to make kind of understanding where you are right now. And this is going to really help you as you start to move forward on your build. And then there's a couple of questions at the bottom that are going to try to help you get clear on your ultimate tire size and tire size build platform. And it gives you a starting point so that you know where you sit right now. And it's going to help you as you move forward on what upgrades you're going to have to make. So I want you to take the time to start here with this worksheet and fill it out today. This is kind of going to be your homework. And then like I shared in the day one email this morning, take the time and think through and really determine your tire size build platform first. So really think through where you're at now, the possibility of where you could ultimately want to get to, and be honest that right now you might think you're going to want a smaller platform build, but is there that possibility? And then where are you going to be using your Jeep the most? Is it going to be your daily driver? Those are going to be some of the things that are going to help you as you work through this build and the build platform. So I want to jump right in and go to axles and gears, because this is probably the most controversial. You have the most opinions kind of across the board when you start talking about axles and gears. So why is it important to understand this piece right now? Because to determine what axle you have right now, so you know where you are sitting, and then also what gear you're going to be able to run, or you may be limited to run in the current axle that you have right now. And then you need to know what gears you have right now in your axle. So understand what tire size you can run right now with the specs that you have without needing to make changes. And then also know the gear that you're going to need to move up to in order to run the bigger tire. Sorry, ladies. And then to be able to make the most educated decision on designing your build that you can, with understanding of upgrades and modifications you will need to make. So this is another crucial piece. We're kind of starting at the bottom, working our way up, because these are going to be the changes that you want to try to only have to do once if possible. So first, know your axles. So you're going to fill out your Jeep spec sheet so you know what axles you have in your Jeep currently. And, depending on what year, make, and model that your Jeep is going to depend on what you have factory in your Jeep. If you have a JK, JKU, you're either going to be running a Dana 30 or a Dana 44 front. The Rubicon came with the Dana 44 front. So again, it's going to be knowing your specs of what you have right now. If you bought your Jeep already built with aftermarket modifications made to it, then you're going to have to kind of do some discovery on your own, because what you can do if you bought your Jeep from a dealership is you can actually go to jeep.com with your VIN number, and you can put it in, and it will pull up the build sheet, factory build sheet for your Jeep, and give you all the specs. So it's going to let you know what your front end is, rear end is, what gears that you're currently running. So then you'll be able to fill out your sheet and know. So how do these go together? So when you're talking about going to a lift and tires, you need to know your gears. And however, gears and axles are going to go hand in hand. So what I wanted to share with you, and I shared an overview kind of chart with you this morning for day one. But when you start talking about axles, and again, this can be controversial, people have difference of opinions, but what I'm sharing with you ladies today is I want you to have the longevity and lifetime of your build, and to be the happiest and most successful with your ultimate build. Because let's be honest, we do spend a lot of money and put a lot of money and time into our builds and into our Jeeps. So if you have a Dana 30 front end, some of your gear options are going to be the 373, the 410, and the 456. When you move up to the Dana 44, your gear options are going to be the 3.73, 410, 456, 488, 513. And then if you move up to a Dana 60, you're looking at 410, 456, 488, 513, and 538. And then when we talk about upgrading rear axles, what you're going to see is a lot of times if you have an older Jeep, you might be running a Dana 35, and the upgrade that you're normally going to see when you start talking about upgrading rear ends and rear axles is going to be going to an 8.8 rear end or the Dana 44. Sometimes you're going to see a Chrysler 8.25. But the biggest upgrade, like for the Jeep, is you're going to see going from a Dana 35 to a Dana 44 rear end. And then a Dana 60 is going to be your 3/4 ton axle. So if it is a stock Dana 60 rear end, this is another misconception. It is not a ton. So if you are going to ton your Jeep and you're going to go to the Dana 60, you need to make sure it is still an aftermarket axle. So like the Pro Rock Dana 60, Is going to be a built Dana 60, so it'll be a 1 ton, or even moving up to a 14 bolt rear end. Is another way that you can go ahead and move up to tonning your Jeep. So that is another thing I want you to keep in mind. A lot of people assume a Dana 60, when you're going to ton your Jeep, Dana 60 is going to be the ton in the rear, unless it still has aftermarket work done to it. Your Dana 60 rear is not a full ton. So you have to make sure you do your homework, make sure you get like the Pro Rock Dana 60, something that has been upgraded so that it's a ton axle in the rear. So now to decide the tire size based on axle and gears, or understanding modifications you'll make based on tire size and current specs. So this is going to be the overview that I shared with you this morning. So based on the tire size, this is our recommendation for the minimum gear and what axle you want to be running based on the tire size and the gear. So another thing to keep in mind is you can run a smaller tire on a larger size platform build, but you don't want to be running a bigger tire on a smaller platform build. So try to design your build with that ultimate long-term possibility of the largest size tire that you could want to run. That's where, really take the time. There's no rush when you're doing your build. That is another thing. You're better to take your time and go slow and make sure that your build is the ultimate build that you want in the end, so that you're not doing your build multiple times. And that does happen. My YJ, I think we're about to start on the rear end now. So I think we're going back to rebuilding her for the third or fourth time. Now, that's because we're trying to tune things and get everything to work exactly the way that we want. But sometimes you will have to revisit and change things, especially as you start trying to get more performance. And maybe you want to challenge yourself a little bit more. So you're going to start challenging your Jeep more. So you might have to go back and change some things and do your build a couple times. But what we're trying to do is set you up so that you can do your build one time and be happy, and it's going to last the lifetime, so that you're not going to have to go in and make repairs. And this chart shows the minimum gear size that you should run based on your tire. Now, this is another kind of controversial thing that you'll see. You'll put bigger tires on before you gear, and that's okay. But just remember that long term, you need to be thinking you're going to have to re-gear so that you're going to have better performance as your daily driver if you put a bigger tire on and re-gear. But then also you're going to have that performance off-road, so that, as we talked about, kind of the science behind this, our Jeeps come stock and they're meant to turn stock tires, and those parts are meant to handle that pressure that's put on them by stock tires. So as you start doing bigger tires, a lot of your stock pieces are now being put under stress. And that is where you're going to start to have failure and also start to have breakage and problems. So as you're thinking tire size, let's be honest, if you're going to do a 37 or bigger, you're going to have a lot more upgrades that you're going to have to make in your build. Up to about the 35 mark, you're going to have minimal changes. You're still going to have to upgrade. You're still probably going to have to re-gear depending on what gears your Jeep has now. There's going to be some modifications that you're going to need to make. But when you start talking about a 37 and bigger tire build, you really are starting to talk about modifications. And again, it's for that longevity and lifetime of the Jeep, so that you have good performance and you are happy with the way that your Jeep runs. So why did I start this chart? This really is an overview for you to see what the opinions are and options for you in your build. And everyone has their own opinion, but I wanted to share with you based on life and longevity of your vehicle and trying to do your build one time. So a quick breakdown, and this was the best explanation that I could think of, kind of going down to very just detailed, making it easy, breaking it down. Here's when we start talking about our axles and the gears and the tire size, and we start talking about the science behind it. But, you'll hear people talk about axles and gears. So what I want you to understand is the bigger the axle. So when we're talking we'll talk front axles. So a Dana 30, a Dana 44, and a Dana 60. So the bigger the axle, the larger the housing, which is where your gears are going to go, as well as the axle itself. So this is going to add strength and durability, but it also allows the ring and pinion gear, so that is your actual gear and the size of your gears, to be larger. So basically, the deeper the gear you go, so when you start getting into like 488 and 513s, the smaller the gear is actually going to be inside of the housing. So your ring and pinion gear gets smaller the deeper your gear goes. And what that is going to mean is the contact point and the actual size of your ring and pinion gear is going to get smaller. So I just want to do a quick example. So for an example, the way that this really works is a 456 gear is a 456 gear. Regardless of what axle it is in, it's going to be the same. So it's the same gear regardless of if you put it in a Dana 30, a Dana 44, or a Dana 60. It is still a 456. But what is going to happen is as you change axle size, the actual size of your ring and pinion is going to change as well. So the deeper you go in your gearing, so when you go from a 410 to a 456, the ring and pinion gets smaller. When you go from a 456 to a 488, the ring and pinion gets smaller again. When you go to a 513, the deeper the gear gets, the smaller the ring and pinion is going to be. So the smaller your gears are going to be, which means then you have less surface that is going to make contact with your gears. So the pieces get smaller. That is why you see people upgrade to the bigger axles. There's lots of different reasons. Bigger axle, which means the axle itself is bigger, but the housing is bigger, which then means the ring and pinion gear are going to be bigger. So if you regear to a 456 and a Dana 30, your ring and pinion are going to be at the smallest size that you're going to have for that 456 gear. If you were to go ahead and regear in a Dana 44 in a 456 gear, the ring and pinion are going to be bigger in size, so you're going to have more surface contact points in the Dana 44 than in the Dana 30, but it's still going to be smaller than in the Dana 60. Then if you move up to the Dana 60, that 456, it's still a 456 gear, but the ring and pinion are going to be bigger. So if you think of it this way, the smaller the part, the more likelihood that you could have issues. And I know this is a huge controversy and you hear people talking about this all the time, but that really scientifically, bottom line, is what the difference is when you start talking about Dana 30, Dana 44, Dana 60. The size of the axle itself, the size of the housing, and then the size of the ring and pinion gear, which then is going to affect how strong or how weak those points are going to be. If you think of as a part gets smaller, there's going to be more weakness in that part. As a part gets bigger, you're going to have more surface area that is going to touch. So that means it's going to be stronger. That is why when you see people normally in a build, if you're going to do 40s and larger, the vehicle is going to be tonned, which means it's going to be running probably a Dana 60. Again, there's aftermarket options for axles as well when you start talking about doing your build. But that is why you see them go to the bigger axles, because now all of a sudden you have a bigger tire, which is more rotating mass and is heavier, which is then going to put more stress and strain on every single aspect of your Jeep, on your axle, and on your gears. So that's why when you start hearing people going from like a Dana 30, Dana 44, you hear people say, well, I'm going to have to ton my Jeep. That is why. It is, again, the science behind rotating mass and weight and moving parts. So when you have a big tire, which is your rotating mass and weight, it is then putting more stress on any of the moving mechanical parts inside of your Jeep. So I hope that helped you, because to me, that was the biggest piece that I needed to know, is understanding what is the difference in the gears. What is the difference in regearing and going to a different axle? Why do people change axles? What is the benefit? What is the difference? So I'm hoping that was kind of an easy breakdown. And then the last worksheet that I'm going to share with you today is the build sheet. So this is 2 pages. And again, I'll share these links as soon as we get done today, right here under the video. So you can go grab your Jeep spec and then your Jeep build sheet. And this is going to be broken down. It's 2 pages and it gives you room to go ahead and sit down and design your entire Jeep build for your Jeep. And it has room for any of the upgrades and modifications that you're going to make. And again, I wish I could have covered a lot more in the build. I wanted to pick the most important pieces that I felt were good to focus on for one day, because I'm sure, as you ladies know, there are thousands of little pieces that all go together when we start talking about our build. But to me, this is starting from the bottom and then work your way up, the most important pieces. And I always start with tire size, because then that's going to determine axles, gears. Then you can start talking about, fenders, and then how much lift you're going to need because of how much travel that you want. And that's where you can then start kind of building up. But ultimately, we started at the very ground floor today. So look for your Be Our Valentine Challenge Day 2 lesson tomorrow. So today's challenge was day 1, and we focused on love your Jeep. Then our day 2 is going to be love yourself. And then our day 3, I'm really excited about, is you both together. So I'm going to be doing an off-road and trail driving lesson, and I actually have not shared this anywhere yet. It is going to be brand new. So it'll be brand new for you ladies in the challenge. First time I've ever put it out, and it is one of my favorite little tricks when you are out driving off-road or on the trails to really help you with control, and also with having more throttle control as well. So I'm excited to share that with you ladies on day 3. And then don't forget to like, comment, and share. So thank you for jumping on really quickly. I'm going to jump back over. But thank you for being here today and jumping on really quick with me so that I could go ahead and run through this. I know, again, this can be so overwhelming. There's so many pieces. But my hope and goal for you ladies for this challenge was to go ahead and break things down and try to have a process for you to be able to follow, that if you can do one piece at a time, focus on one decision, one element, how then everything just builds on that. So that instead of kind of feeling overwhelmed because you have an entire Jeep sitting in front of you and you're thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to change everything. If you can kind of think, start at the ground, slowly work your way up, and make your decisions from there. And my best advice is take your time. There is no rush when you're doing your Jeep build. You want it to be your build. And ultimately, in the end, you are the one that has to love it, and no one else does. This is for you. And you're making this kind of a statement of who you are as well. So make sure when you're making decisions, you want to get advice, you want to do research, but ultimately you have to love your build. So as you start doing modifications, make sure they really are for you. And I'm going to jump over, see if I can see any questions really quickly. Oh, thank you, Jacqueline and Candace and Roz and Missy. You ladies are wonderful. Thank you for jumping on here with me, spending some time. Let's see if it'll show me more comments. Oh, it might not. Oh, here we go. Sorry, ladies. And what I will do is I will kind of keep an eye on this post for today, and I will jump in and try to answer more of the questions as well, and kind of keep an eye on this live for today. And as soon as we jump off, I am going to go ahead and I will share the links so that you can go ahead and get your downloads as well. So you have those and start working on them and have a plan and a worksheet and a way to follow your build as well. And then don't forget, like, comment, and share, and keep an eye out for our day 2. And I will see you ladies tomorrow. Have a wonderful Monday. Thank you for being here. I'm going to share the worksheets, and then I'll jump in and try to answer any questions. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, ladies. Bye.